Welcome to the City of Maple Grove Report. I'm Dave Kaiser from CCX Media, along with Heidi Nelson, Maple Grove City Administrator. Welcome once again, Heidi.
Thank you.
A lot to talk about. You see lots of papers right here. It was a rather long meeting, and then a lot going on in the city through the end of September and October. So stick with us for some of the community announcements in the beginning. But from September 15th, first was a work session, and a number of items there as well, beginning with Maple Grove Transit. We've talked about this throughout the spring and summer. Where are we now?
So, over the past year, we have done a study about our transit service in conjunction with Plymouth, their Plymouth Metrolink services, and just really thinking, now we're 4 years post-pandemic, what is transit now for the future, and looking at making some tweaks to our services, and then maybe more partnering with Plymouth on our microtransit. So some of the things that you're likely going to see is we had suspended some routes that kind of weaved through town during the pandemic. We're going to officially suspend those and remove some of those transit shelters from Crosswinds. The one at Shepherd of the Grove is already removed. Expand some of the routes out of the Parkway station up there, Route 785. Look at maybe potentially some all-day service out of the Main Street station. We know there's a lot of folks that are, maybe not going downtown for, the traditional 8 to 5 type of thing, but maybe going down for the morning, going down for the afternoon type of thing. And so providing some flexibility for folks to take the bus downtown and be able to get back at different times. Reducing our fleet overall to kind of right size to this kind of modified service schedule, those types of things. And then I mentioned about My Ride, more expanding our coverage area to include Plymouth, and then Plymouth would include Maple Grove, getting a kind of a singular app that we would use for not only scheduling but payment that would be the same as Plymouth, those types of things. So just trying to expand that service coverage up here in the Northwest Metro. So you'll start to see some of those changes roll out over the next couple of years here, as we just kind of modify into what is likely the post-pandemic transit world over the next couple of years.
Very good. We'll keep you up to date on that. Next item from the work session on the 15th was local board versus open book, and we've talked about this a few times related to assessing. Give us the big picture and then what was talked about here.
So just a piece of this about assessing is we're going to be transitioning our assessing services to Hennepin County as of next summer. So in June, at the end of June of 2026. One of the options for a city is to look at how they do their Board of Appeal process, whether they want to continue. Today we've been doing kind of the 2-meeting Board of Appeal and equalization process. You can do that also in one meeting, or you can transition to what's called an open book format, which really just sort of designates a few weeks during the spring where residents can come in and meet with the assessor's office. It's a bit more informal, a bit more flexible for residents, and then they can continue on to the county board just as before. So the direction was to transition to that open book format, so we won't have that Board of Appeal and equalization meeting, but rather you'd have this longer period of time opportunity to come in and appeal your property value. So we'll be getting some information out to residents so that they're prepared, going into the new year, not only about kind of the transition of our assessing services, but also this change to that valuation process for 2026.
And again, not something that just Maple Grove is doing, but many cities doing the same thing and going with the county for these services. So
there would be now 6 cities left in Hennepin County that have their own city assessing services. While they were undergoing this change recently, both Edina and then here at Maple Grove, we made the transition to the county. So that'll be happening here over the next year.
Very good. Next item on the work session, open meeting law changes. Again, a little background if you could, and what is going forward.
So the legislature, I think in a little bit of a surprise to many of us, made some changes to the open meeting law in terms of remote meeting attendance, kind of really opening it up that, remote meeting attendance would be allowed really without restriction. And it previously it had been rather restricted. And so we thought it might be good to pull that in a little bit and put some walls around that. That brings with it some technology requirements because the public has to have the opportunity to see and hear that meeting. And so for some of our boards and commissions, they aren't on camera, they aren't on TV, that type of thing. So putting some walls around that remote attendance really only applies to the city council, and then limiting the number of times a year that a member of council could attend remotely. So we always have the opportunity to be more restrictive than state law, not more generous than state law.
Okay.
So this, I think a lot of cities are looking at, just trying to put some walls around that to make sure, our elected officials are present in the community, and then, kind of managing those technology obligations at the same time.
All right, that's it for the work session. Let's move ahead to the council meeting on the 15th. One item pulled from consent, and that related to speed limits.
Yeah, so a few years ago, the legislature made a change that allowed for cities to adjust speed limits on local streets. And so we established a process for that. And so we can respond to requests from residents to consider a reduced speed limit, pretty much kind of going from like 30 to 25 type of situation. So this was a request from the Woods at Rush Creek neighborhood, and that one, with some discussion, then got approved.
Moving ahead to special business, some special guests with crowns at the meeting this past week. Tell us who that was.
Yeah, so this is our new 2025-2026 ambassadors, Paige, Sabrina, and McKenna. We were very happy to have them in the chambers that Monday evening and talked about some of the things that they've enjoyed most so far. All three of them are seniors this year, Paige at Osseo Senior High and then Sabrina and McKenna at Maple Grove Senior High. So it's kind of fun to have these seniors be part of this. They're more available in the community a bit. So some favorites, highlights of the year so far: Maple Grove Days National Night Out and Jesse James Days is always a hit. So great to have them in, and we look forward to seeing them throughout their year.
Yeah, they'll be throughout the community as you go to community events. One public hearing on the 15th, and that was a restaurant that is moving a little bit across town.
Yeah, so this is Tandoor. It's an Indian restaurant. They've previously been up in the Grove, up near the hospital, but now they're moving kind of to the west side of 94. The family that owns this restaurant also owns the MGM Liquors, so they're doing a little expansion there and then going to move that restaurant into that space. So this was kind of moving that liquor license from one location to the other.
Next part of the meeting on the 15th was moving to the EDA to discuss home loan extension, and this has to do with scattered site housing as well.
Yeah, so this, our scattered site program, we have about 26 houses or homes throughout the community, duplexes, single family homes that are part of our kind of affordable housing for families program. We had a loan that we had out there on a number of these housing units that was coming due at the end of the year, so we worked with the county to get that extended. We can pay it off at any time, but we are going to have more discussion about our scattered site housing program. These types of housing units typically have multiple funding sources involved, and so, any type of change to that program really takes quite a bit of time to kind of work through all the different layers there. So this just buys us some time to consider what, the policy direction is about the scattered site program, and then, certainly can pay that off in the future at no penalty if we need to do that. So that got that extension done. And then we adopted the EDA HRA levy. It's consistent since 1999 at $150,000. This again funds some of our housing programs in the city.
Next up, community and economic development items, and a lot going on in the city, so get ready. There's a lot that is happening. What was the list from Joe at the meeting? Yeah,
so we celebrated an opening of a new chiropractic office, Blooming Chiropractic. On Thursday afternoon, the Maple Grove Arts Center is going to be celebrating their opening at their new temporary space over at the Grove Square Shopping Center.
Right.
Earlier on this evening's agenda, we had an item on the consent agenda that kind of formalized an agreement between the city and the Arts Center for them eventually kind of moving their home base into the community center. Once that space is completed, we'll have some expanded space for the arts in the building. So we're looking forward to that as well. Silver Creek on Main celebrating 10 years this Saturday. They're having a celebration with a program at 2 p.m. on this Saturday. And then Experience Maple Grove will have their annual meeting on September 23rd at 8 a.m. out at Rush Creek. A couple business openings, Boot Barn over by Lunds and Byerly's. We're really excited about this. Friday, October 3rd at 3 p.m. They'll celebrate their grand opening. And then Duluth Trading Company, another great one at the Shops at Arbor Lakes on Saturday, October 4th at 9:45 a.m. There'll be a program, lots of all-day events there though. They'll have a lumberjack show. So could be a fun event to get the family out to Duluth Trading Company on October 4th.
Excellent. Get out and enjoy those new businesses in town. To Engineering Public Works, one item about construction around Main Street. A lot happening now and a lot to come as well.
Yeah, so if you noticed, we did some work earlier in the season, kind of prior to Maple Grove Days, a lot of curb work, those types of things, and now we're getting back and we're going to do some mill and overlay and street reconstruction in there, as well as address some of the trails in that area. So some impacts to traffic and circulation, kind of that north leg of Main Street, kind of from the Government Center north, and then Lakeview that kind of goes over to Central Park. So if you live in that area or travel that area, just pay attention. We're going to have some road closure and impacts in that area.
Watch for the cones out there. Now to the administration items of the meeting, and this was one of the longer portions of the 1-hour meeting because it was the budget. So how are things looking on the budget as the process moves along?
Yeah, so this was setting our preliminary levy. So what this does, it sets the high water mark, can't go up from there, can go down from here. It's a procedural process. We have to set our levy by September 30th for the county to get out those tax statements in November in advance of our Truth in Taxation hearing that'll be held on December 1st, and then we'll adopt the final budget on December 15th. But the budget that was presented on Monday night is the culmination of a lot of staff level work that begins in June, and then 2 council work sessions in August where we really get into the detail of the budget and kind of what the council's priorities are. So setting that levy at a 6.35% increase, which is a 6.77% increase in the budget. You know, amongst our colleagues, we're kind of the third lowest in the metro area amongst our comparable suburbs. When we look at the budget, really just kind of our base, dealing with inflationary costs, union contracts, those types of things, we're really in that 4.5% to 5% just to kind of keep the status quo. So 6.35% levy, that got adopted, and so we'll be back in December for that Truth in Taxation hearing, and then adopt the budget on December 15th. Lots of information out there in the agenda packet online. Encourage folks to go take a look.
MapleGroveMN.gov is the website where you can go into that agenda packet. The next item is talking about the PUPS facility. Again, remind us what PUPS stand for and what has been happening here.
Yeah, so this is pets under police supervision. So this is kind of our animal impound facility. Currently, we serve 7 communities, including ourselves, out of that facility, and we've been having discussions about the need for some reinvestment and potential expansion up there. 3 cities have decided to step away from that service, being Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center, and Champlin, which really reduces kind of our animal impound count there. So we're going to be looking at a lesser project to serve the remaining communities of Plymouth, New Hope, and Robbinsdale. So about a $3 million investment, just a full rehab of the facility, a minor expansion, about the same capital cost for the city under this revised, reduced model. Some, increase to the operating costs because we're spreading those over fewer members, but yeah, good to see this project moving forward. It's a much needed project. This facility is aging and has mechanical issues and just some operational issues that really need to be addressed to ensure sort of the safety of our staff and the safety of the animals up there. So this one will move forward, probably a spring construction start on this one. We'll move through the design process over the winter months, but yeah, good to have this approved and get going with those 4 cities to be served.
Final notes from the meeting on the 15th, some admin items as well, things that are coming up and things to watch out for. The first is community center, so the parking continues to shift a little bit. Where should we go in today?
Yeah, so the access is coming off of Grove Drive there back by Cub. So off of Weaver Lake Road, you can't get into the community center today. So the kind of the southwest lot is now paved and open, and they have kind of a pedestrian path to both the arena and the front door, so that's an option for folks. And then, of course, that parking lot, kind of the northeast parking lot right in front of the community center. There's parking available there, but they are doing a lot of construction right in front of that arena area, so some of that has been reduced as well. So just ask for your patience as you're coming to the community center. Kind of slow down, take a look around, maybe plan for a little bit more time as you're coming. You might have to walk a little bit. Pool has been closed for much of the month, which has helped us out a little bit.
Sure.
That is reopening on Monday the 22nd. So just working on kind of getting things in shape here and hopefully get all that site work wrapped up before the snow flies.
All right, more about water in the city in just a minute as well for those that can't get enough of it. Speaking of the community center, an important meeting coming up in early October. What will that be about and who's attending?
Yeah, so we have been doing an operational analysis for the expansion of the community center. We did a preliminary one back when we were kind of doing sort of the visioning for the community center, but this was more kind of into the detail of the budget as well as kind of thinking about what kind of additional staff might be needed to staff the expanded community center. So that will be going to a joint city council park board meeting on October 6th to review that operational analysis and then get an update on design development as well. So that continues to move along. And then we're still aiming for that arena third sheet of ice to open. I think our first girls hockey game for the season is November 13th, so shooting for that ice to be available for that game.
There's your wrap-up of the meeting on the 15th. We'll tell you about the next meeting in just a few minutes, but let's now hop into some other things happening around town, some that are coming up and some that have just passed, including Rockin' the Grove. You had a beautiful day in Maple Grove.
It was like a July summer night, much like Maple Grove days out there. So Hairball was back in town. Great evening for the Maple Grove Lions. Really a lot of appreciation for bringing this event to town.
Cross Community Services, there was a recent tour of that facility. Remind us what that facility is and what the tour was for.
Yeah, so they are located up in Rogers, but they serve a number of cities up here in the Northwest Metro, and 43% of their clientele comes from the city of Maple Grove. So really an important service here. It is, primarily a food shelf for food supports, but they really take a kind of a holistic approach with kind of wraparound services to try to get to the root issue of why we're having food insecurity or maybe rent insecurity, those types of things, and address those and connect people with services and employment opportunities. So just good to get up there and kind of see what they're doing today and the services that they're providing. A lot of increased demand on food shelf services today, about a 29% increase across the seeing. So if you're thinking about giving here this fall or into the holiday season, I know they're a lot of their work is supported by philanthropy, by donations, but also volunteer services. So just something to think about either for your family, yourself, or your business, getting involved in supporting Cross, not only financially, but with just kind of your volunteer help as well.
Earlier in the meeting, we talked about some business activity in town, but that's not all of it. There's more. So tell us about a couple of new things happening with businesses.
Yeah, so Boston Scientific will be celebrating their opening of their Arbor Lakes campus here on October 20th. We're looking forward to that ribbon cutting. There's a second location of Top Line Credit Union over at the markets at Rush Creek, and then Nupa Mediterranean Grill at the Village at Arbor Lakes there. Really great Mediterranean food. I've been there. It's a great treat. So check out Nupa Mediterranean Grill.
Let's talk about the fire department, a number of items here. And the first is a look back. They had a huge event recently, which I understand went very well.
It did. September 6th, we all gathered over at the Northwest Marriott there off of Boone for a celebration. Over 300 people in attendance. They just did a really great job with putting on this event. Many thanks to the folks from the Relief Association that made that happen. They did a nice job of sort of, honoring every decade of the fire department, talking about, significant events that happened, the leadership during those times. We've lost a lot of folks over the years, so recognize those that have left us from the fire department and those that have gone on to serve as, fire leadership in other departments around the state of Minnesota. So a remarkable story to tell, not only about the past, but also about the future. Chief Zickman talked about where we're headed next, and we are very supportive of this paid-on-call model, and I think, this event and sort of the Gulf event the next day speaks to that camaraderie of the department and the spirit of the department and the desire to keep this going. So congratulations on 50 years of service, and we look forward to 50 more.
Wonderful celebration. More from the fire department. They're back to work now. First thing they have is story time, going out and seeing some kids.
Yeah, so this is on Saturday, September 27th. Kids and caregivers are invited to Fire Station 5 at 6900 Maple Grove Parkway. The event runs from 10 to 11 a.m. and includes a fun tour of a fire truck. Again, Saturday, September 27th at 10 a.m. at Fire Station 5.
And they're also gearing up for Fire Prevention Week, early October. What is the week and what is the theme this year?
Yeah, so this year's Fire Prevention Week is October 6th through the 12th. This year's theme centers around lithium-ion batteries. So a lot of electronics in your home are charged by these. So thinking about where you purchase them, how you charge them, and how you recycle them safely. Lots of information also in the city's fall newsletter about that topic.
Speaking of fall, the fire department wanting you to think about burn permits. So why is this important and what do we need to do as a resident?
Yeah, so the city does require residents to have a recreational fire permit. It is free. Our purpose here is really to get out education about sort of the parameters of those backyard fires, just to prevent any type of runaway fires in the backyard, that type of thing, what can be disposed of in those. And so check out the website for those free fire permits.
Another fall-related activity is the tree sale. It is going on now, and you have to act fast. What is the deadline?
Yeah, so the order deadline is October 1st. Trees will be available for pickup on October 11th. Again, a lot of information available on the city website as well as in the fall newsletter.
Let's talk about the roads. You see a lot of orange cones around. Let's first go to 610. How are things going there?
Yeah, we're moving along.
Yes.
We're targeting sort of a right, before Thanksgiving type of opening, looking for a ribbon cutting Monday, November 10th. So this is really a kind of that cathedral project for the city here, for the mayor, certainly, having this 610 completed on the west side. So looking forward to that and getting that traffic open, taking that pressure off of Maple Grove Parkway. And then another project up along the parkway at County Road 81. We've completed kind of the Maple Grove Parkway extension and sort of the Fernbrook connection to the north, sort of removing that southern section of Fernbrook.
Right.
Still working on some signal adjustments, waiting on some final signals out there, but I think we've got traffic moving a little bit better. There were some backups through the roundabout in the last week or so, but they've got some signal timing changes. So we'll start to see that project become fully completed as we get into the later months of the fall.
This is a great time of the year to think about cleaning things up around the home, especially because the city will help get rid of some of that stuff. How does this happen?
Yeah, so 2 cleanup events. We have curbside pickup on Monday, September 29th. This does require you to schedule that in advance. Sometimes there's a fee associated with that pickup, so encourage people to either give a call to Public Works or check out that information on the website. Cleanup day for drop-off is Saturday, October 4th. Residents can dispose of items from 8 to noon at the Public Works facility on Forest View. Again, there's some costs associated with some of those items being dropped off, and all that information available on the city website.
MapleGroveMN.gov to find out more. Also, there you can find out hours about the pool. We snuck it in a little earlier, but let's mention it again in case people missed it. The pool is coming back to life for a little bit.
Yeah, Monday, September 22nd, we'll be back open in the pool. So just a reminder, coming off of Grove Drive, and then some changes to the parking over there as well.
All right, let's continue with the water. Hop down to the splash pad as well. So that's hanging in there. People can still enjoy it.
Yeah, so that we'll keep that open as long as this weather hangs on. We'll probably go from splash padding to skating in a week here, I think. But yeah, good to see that keep open. And I do want to mention the Rice Lake Trail. So we are hosting 2 public community engagement events. There's a pop-up event on the trail, September 24th from 4 to 6. That'll be at Freedom Field, 8585 Rice Lake Road. And then we do have a public open house on October 7th from 5 to 7, and that's over at the Pheno Pavilion at Central Park. So we are looking at project to improve Rice Lake Trail sort of in different segments. And so really important, if you live along the trail or you're a trail user, show up to that pop-up event and come to the open house.
Very good idea. All right, get your calendars out. Our last couple items here are coming up. The first is Oktoberfest. Fun event with a couple neat partners.
Yeah, so Omni Brewing and Maple Grove Parks and Rec are partnering for another event on Saturday, September 27th. The festivities run from noon to 6. Lots of music, food trucks, beverages, vendor show, fun activities, yard games, fire pits. So a fun day over at Central Park. And then just a reminder, the farmers market is going strong in September.
Yeah.
Includes a lot of the fall favorites, and then that stays open from 3 to 7. Again, we're up at Church of the Open Door.
Right.
And then starting with October 2nd, that market shifts from 3 to 6
Good
in
to
the
know.
evening. Yes.
All right, a lot of people come early, but don't come late
Yes.
after that point in time. Finally, looking ahead to October, a special annual event is coming up once again.
Yeah, an important event for the city, the Maria's Voice Vigil that honors those that have lost their lives to domestic violence. Maria's Voice focuses on domestic violence education and prevention. The event will take place on Thursday, October 9th at the Pheno Pavilion at Central Park. The event begins at 5 p.m. with a memory lane honoring Minnesotans who have lost their lives to domestic violence since 2020. The program starts at 6. They always put on a very lovely program, good education and awareness, information about domestic violence in our community, including speakers and music. So we look forward to getting together with Maria's Voice in October.
All right, a lot to pack in. We had the challenge, could we get it in? We did it, Heidi.
Did we?
We got
Okay.
it all in, right? And let's leave you with the website, because we gave you so much, you're going to need to go to the website to recap some of these things. See it in the lower left, maplegrovemn.gov, and the next meeting will be on Monday the 6th for the City Council, 7:30 at the Government Center. For Heidi Nelson, I'm Dave Kaiser. Thanks for joining us on the City of Maple Grove Report.